Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Venture Fuel Visionaries podcast. I'm your host, Fred Schonenberg. I'm thrilled today to welcome Tinku Jose. He is the head of vertical technology office for HiTech at Quest Global. So Tinku spent over 20 years building complex products from smart TVs and streaming platforms to automotive cockpits, ADAS, and IoT systems, working across the full stack from silicon to user experience. Today, we're going to talk about what it really takes to turn AI and emerging technologies into real-world products and what most large companies get wrong. So please join me in welcoming Tinku. Tinku, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Fred. It is actually a pleasure to be in this podcast. Thank you very much for having me in this.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And maybe for the people that don't know, can you give a brief introduction to Quest Global and what your focus is there?
Sure. So Quest Global is a design and product engineering services firm. Basically, if you really look at it, we want to try to bridge the gap between the digital dreams, as we call it, with the physical reality. So that pretty much sums it up. And we don't just write code or software just like that. We build machines and devices that run it, and also maybe design silicon that powers those devices as well, in fact. And as you mentioned, I head the technology office in the HiTech vertical, and my focus is to actually have a pretty wide category from silicon to system to experience, and drive technology strategy and productization, basically to bridge between the R&D and the products. Basically, that's what my focus is, to simplify, convert those emerging technologies around into a shippable, validated products which everyone can use.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It feels like such a gap between what's possible, what people are excited about, and then actually what is scalable, productizable. So it's a very interesting link there. How did you get involved in this space? Can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Oh yeah. I've been in electronics and IT industry for the past 20 plus years, and I've been leading the business techno leadership, business techno functions, and meaning it is about, while we talk about technology, the architecture of the chip and the product, how it is used, it's also about understanding, or the end user, or empathy for the end user, and how to make that technology and the product accessible for users and have a frictionless user experience. In fact, that has been my passion. And I like products. I like products for end consumers, whether it is users or it can be enterprises, doesn't matter. So and I always tell, I believe in the holy trinity of the technology, business, and people. So basically, it all has to come together to actually deliver a great product or help in delivering a great product.
So one of the things that's interesting is most people, when they think AI, they think software. And a lot of pundits, venture capitalists, a lot of people that I kind of follow and talk to are really most excited about this jump of AI embedded into products and hardware, physical AI. Could you talk a little bit about what's becoming possible in that space that maybe wasn't realistic a few years back?
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting breakneck speed evolution of AI in the last couple of years, for sure. So it is been shifting. AI is something which was an app to having the capability inside a device or system, and it provides really good experience for the end user. So now we've been interacting, a lot of people were using a lot of technology heavy systems or software to interact with. It became a chatbot. If you really look at it in the last couple of years, chatbot has been the main trend now. But I would like to call myself focusing more on the AI that lives inside your devices, the mobile, or the car, or the wearables. That's actually a big thing which is happening. So I would say that it is more of a physical AI, not from a robotics perspective, but the AI that lives inside the device, delivering what you are looking for. And with that, it comes a lot of challenges. If you look at it, we can talk about thermal and power problem. It's not easy. The latency problem, the user experience, or the complete life cycle. So end of the day, it is gone beyond, for me, from a device perspective, gone beyond the model accuracy and all of those. It is actually getting into seamless experience, how we will be able to uh, make the technology invisible
Mm,
for what user wants, or even for the matter, how to democratize the AI. So when you want to democratize AI so that everyone can use it, will not be able to use maybe chatbots or in a laptop or a mobile. It has to just be accessible for someone who is not even aware of how to use some of these chatbots and all of those. That is that's something which is driving from a perspective of from a software, just a software to hardware. And it can be multimodal, using multimodal, like images, or voice, or gestures, or even recently I've been reading a lot about BMI, the brain machine interface, and how it is actually. So these are the things which is making it just from a software to beyond software, to deliver that experience, Fred.
yeah, I mean, you said a bunch of really interesting things there. The idea of the technology becoming invisible, and people not thinking about it but benefiting from it is such an interesting next step. Uh,
Yeah.
as well as this idea of sort of like AI. I know you've talked about this before. AI appliances. This idea of pre-configured, maybe purpose-built systems. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's right. I think uh, we've been listening, and we've been hearing uh, a lot of general purpose servers, general purpose. That's what the market was saying. If anyone wants to get a server, you need to get a general purpose server, and you just configure the way you want, or and all of those. In fact, those were the days. In fact, now, if you really look at, for example, I want to actually have a robot installed in my enterprise, in my factory, that will sort debris, just to give an example.
Yeah.
So I should not be looking at a general purpose LLM, and I should not be looking at something which is really a large system just for doing that. And maybe I'll be using only 30% of what's really required. And in some places, I'm actually having problems in capacity, because then maybe the processing in the GPU is more needed more. It has to be those devices or those appliances that has to be built for that specific physics or the specific activity we are calling it.
Yeah.
So we should be looking at use cases and challenges, defining the system rather than systems designing what you have to deliver. That is
Mm.
what we can call as purpose built systems, or pre-configured purpose built systems.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, right? This idea of large language models being the solution for everything, and people are realizing no, it's actually maybe it's small language models, or on the edge, or as you're saying, purpose built for a small specific thing, and then obviously you can connect it later from more of an agentic standpoint should you need to. Let me ask you this: from the obviously it's harder to scale when you're talking about smaller groups. So can you talk about what do you think separates the companies that will actually be able to scale these AI products versus those that will merely be running, small pilots that don't necessarily generate the type of impact that people would hope for?
Oh, very interesting. So this is something which we, I meet a lot of customers in my as part of my role,
Yeah.
and I see two kinds of customers right now. We would like to categorize. Some of them are doing pioneer work in AI. So, and some of them are actually they are doing AI, they're leveraging AI, but maybe I don't know whether they are still trying to figure out what is the ROI. So this is the way it is. But it I feel that it is nothing to do with technology. Like, technology is accessible for everyone. That's the way it is come. It is about the mindset and the thinking, which is most important.
Hmm.
It is about, and I would say that a focus on enablement. It's not just tools is more it's more important. And also, I've seen the leadership, how they are, or their behaviors about AI. That is what is really, really differentiating. If we try to do think AI as a tool which can just tie to an existing process to make it a little bit better,
Yeah.
then you are going to get stuck in pilot. I don't think we are going to move more. It is about more of how we can try to embed these AI the capability into uh, our current workflows and then make it work, right? Get works done faster, better. That is where companies are actually scaling AI. In fact, and the one more important thing which I have also seen is that the moment we have companies or enterprises, uh, you know, driving AI, by innovation or a strategy team, that has to be relooked, because until unless there is a business owner driving that, there is a benefit of what's needed. uh, that is the right track. It has to be a business ownership for that, but that's what I meant by it should not be, it should be, we should think beyond technology.
Yeah.
It has to be looked at. That's why I feel the biggest difference is, in fact.
Tinku, let me ask you this, because there's a tension there that I think is really interesting, which is there has to be a business problem to solve, a business owner that cares about this becoming faster, better, different, because then it's real, right? It's not technology for technology's sake. However, when you have just that business unit focusing on that small thing, you also tend to get into incremental change where it is so specific that you don't see that sort of the seismic transformation, right? That unlock of something bigger. How do you balance that specific business problem versus maybe the potential of AI to transform the organization?
That's actually a pretty great question. So when I say that, we have to start looking at the use cases and business model. When we look from a perspective of the leadership or the business owners, what they're looking at is not just trying to solve that one problem. So if you are looking at a small group inside a company trying to do that, it will still get stuck into that middle one. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a mindset change as well as a leadership behavior change. In fact, so when I talk about business owners, this is not the business owners of a particular group. It has to be a little bit. I mean, it has to come from top down, while a lot of activity has to happen from bottoms up also. Now, it should not be just enabling tools for say the engineers who are working on it, or create some chatbots or copilot for helping them do something. That's not the way it is. It has to be something which has to be looked at a little bit broader. Now, as you mentioned, rightly mentioned, there is actually you can get into very siloed multiple operations, siloed multiple
Yeah.
POCs or different groups trying to solve the same thing with different tools and technologies. That
Yeah.
can happen, but all of those are in my view, those are good things that's happening, because we are actually creating different approaches to solve the problem. And at some point, when we look at from the top down, we will be able to see, okay, what is the best way? Can we have different approaches to solve the same problem, and maybe let the users, or let the whoever is going to use it, de- you know define what they want, or decide which one they use. In fact, I would go back to the cloud example. You have a lot of cloud providers. I'm not going to name any, but you have a lot of cloud providers, and at some point, everyone used to get hooked up with one of the provider instead of the another one, and one of those. At some point, they all had to come to a common, a common platform and say that, yeah, I would like to use X from the provider A, Y from provider B, because that's the best way to do it, and hence I want to actually have everything together. That the redesign, re-architecting was not easy. So I think
Yeah.
we should learn from that. So I will not be worried about trying to go down the path of, okay, we have to have a uniform solution right now. Instead, it's evolving. A lot of open source things are coming up. Let's play around with everything, but the mindset is to adopt AI. If that is the case, I'm pretty sure that the organization will figure out, and as it matures, AI matures, the tools matures, we will adopt the right one, Fred. So it is a good, tension to have for sure.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. We see this a lot with large enterprises we work with, where there's this tension between centralized control and
Yeah.
sort of this distributed on the edge business units running pilots. And we have one group where we know the startup really well, and they're running almost 10 different pilots with groups within the same company.
Yeah.
Different business units, different countries, right? And nobody's sharing how it's going. So they're very isolated. And so they're sort of like an extreme that is dangerous. But I agree with you, is letting the users that have the pain point take the initiative. And then it's about figuring out how they can share those results back so that you're not constantly reinventing the wheel. But I love the cloud analogy. I think it's very, very smart.
And just one more point I would like to just add to that is, the moment we try to enforce something, what will happen is that we will find excuses for not using, saying that legal will not allow, compliance is not going to agree to this, security will not sign up for this, and that will become bottlenecks. That will become excuses for not doing it, rather than, okay, how I will find a way to actually do it also. So it's so there was a point of view which I wrote in this area, how enterprises can actually enable the users or whoever is using it, that it can be developers or whoever is using it, to try out what they want and then choose what is right for them. End of the day, data is very important, so that is something which we will secure. But the tools used, processes used, LLMs used, potentially can be any.
Well, if you share that with me, we'll put it in the show notes, because I think it's a very interesting challenge to solve. So let me ask you this. I know we're tight on time, so I'm curious if you see, you're working with lots of large industrial companies. How are they working with, or how do you think about working with startups in this space? Right? We see a lot with large organizations where they have a build first mentality. And a lot of these AI tools enable people to build faster, better, the Replets of the world, right? Where they can go and maybe with a low code, no code solution, come up with something that's pretty interesting. I'm curious how you think of that build versus partner balance, and where you're seeing maybe startups be a successful choice.
Oh, that's a pretty. I'm going to be very simple on this. I'll just go very simple with that. Actually,
Yeah.
Startups are like the special forces. If you take, I don't like to take this example, but that's easiest way to understand. If you take a war or battlefield, they're like the special forces. They innovate. They're very niche, and they just try to solve that specific problem, and they do it efficiently, effectively, and they will be able to adopt and adapt very fast. That's the way it is. Whereas the large industries, they are pretty important as well, because they provide the battlefield. They sort of provide the battlefield. They provide the theater, and they scale, and the environment which is really needed for these startups or to work, in fact. So the partnership is very critical there, and the startups need to be on the toe, innovating, and trying to solve that specific problem, and then get into other partnerships to actually grow and provide solutions addressing not just a focused problem or use case. They should also expand and try to see, okay, how this can help maybe something else. That is important. For just to give an example, now we have ADAS, which is, or autonomous driving, which is there, which is everyone is talking about. That's a technology which is being used. There are a lot of companies focusing on it, but there is a bigger value for the same system in a little bit less riskier environment, like a controlled environment, like a factory floor, where it can have autonomous robots shipping or shifting data, or what you call as machinery, or whatever payload from one place to another, or a rail which can actually run by itself, which is again a controlled environment. So someone who is providing a vision-based algorithm for navigation should be ready to take, or should be able to take, either work with an automotive company to provide autonomous driving, or a industrial robotic company to provide autonomous robots for for the floor, shop floor, or maybe a rail company to actually have autonomous rail trains, basically. So that's the way I would look at it, in fact.
Yeah, I think the special forces is very interesting. I've heard the analogy before of almost on the water, where you have sort of the big boat that's going across the whole ocean and can handle any weather, and you need to deploy little
Yeah.
boats, right, to go out and
Little boats.
explore what's up ahead, and they go
Yeah.
out and then they come back and report and say, hey, turn 5 degrees to the right, let's go this way, and they do it together, right? So I think it's a really interesting way to.
This is Thanks for actually sharing that. That's a good analogy, which I will also try to take. And in fact, it's very, very important. And hence, we can see in many companies which are large, they try to make themselves nimble by doing smaller startups internally with autonomy, so that they will have that approach. And that small startups, when we have with autonomy, what it means is that you're going to create maybe duplications, but that's okay. That's part of the overall design, and they will be able to get the best out of it. So yeah, it's a great one. Thanks for sharing that analogy also.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to kind of do something we call it next now, right? Our business is around commercializing innovation to seize what's next now. So I'm naming this speed round next now. I'm going to hit you with a couple quick questions, and would love your gut instinct on them. Are you ready?
Yes, sure.
All right, let's do it. What's the biggest misconception executives have about AI right now?
It's okay. Let me while it's a shooting round, I will. Is it okay? I think, is it okay for me to think one second? All right.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
You're going. Okay. In my view, it is about defining a model to solve something is one of the biggest misconception. In fact, it is about, especially when I talk about engineering, because the company which I work for is actually is an engineering focused company.
Yeah.
So it is about that, the whole thing about model is solution is the biggest misconception. That's what I would say.
I think that's great. What's a shift in the next 3 years that you see coming in the future?
If you really look at it, the shift is, I think SLMs are going to start defining, basically, instead of just LLMs, SLMs, the small language models, will that tiny hyper efficient model for specific purposes for appliances. That is going to be one. The second one is going to be any solution that can make the technology, what is underlying everything, invisible, and the users have, whether it is enterprise or consumers, having a frictionless experience. Those are going to be, again, very, very important. Third one, I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to talk about the what you call as, sorry, not getting, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So those are the two ones, and third is, very importantly, all the ethical and the regional requirements to be met, sovereignty to be met. So these are the things which are going to be very, very important. It's going to come very clear, in the next 2 or 3 years. These are going to be driving some of those decisions for the enterprises as well.
Is there a company or a technology that you think people should be paying attention to, that you're excited about?
Pretty much all. This is very interesting for me, that it is not just one. I would say that any company working on first principles, assuming AI is always present, I think I will always watch out for them. That is one area. I will watch out. So it's not one. Maybe any company which is trying to use the first principle along with AI. Second one is I'm a big fan. I think I already mentioned about physical AI and all of those. So wherever AI and robotics, and I'll be very clear, these are not humanoid hype robots. It is actually purpose built for whatever reasons it is. That is the other set of companies in Thailand, and there are many of them, Fred. So these are the ones I would say I would be watching out for.
What is your best advice for a corporate leader who wants to move faster with AI?
There's only one thing I would say: that stop doing AI, start solving problems. Where AI happens, the best way to solve it. Don't try to take AI just because it's a hype right now, because you can actually solve the problems which you are facing with AI. That's what I would say.
I love it. Tinku, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights. This was really fantastic, and wishing you continued success, sort of pushing the edge here and moving us all into the future.
Thanks very much, Fred. It was again great talking to you. A lot of thought-provoking uh, points, questions. Thank you. I also can think about some of these areas, and I particularly loved the analogy of the ships, the large ships going with. I'm gonna take that. Thank
All
you.
right, well, it's yours to take. Borrow as freely as you would like.
I borrow with pride.
There you go. It's steal like a pirate, right, or something like that. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Tinku. That was great.